John Downing here with Downing Powerlifting Systems. Today I'm coming to you to talk a little bit about the sport of high school powerlifting. As many of you know, I myself am a powerlifting coach at the high school level. I've coached and or been associated with coaching high school powerlifting for the past 6 years. I even currently coach the Buckeye Barbell Club at The Ohio State University. At the high school level, powerlifting is really different, and today I want to look at the good and bad things that we see coming out of high school powerlifting. This isn't in any way a way of bashing or degrading high school powerlifting, but it's more of a discussion on how things should go forward, and maybe even to start the discussion of how we can start to change things for the betterment of the sport itself, as well as bettering things for the students, as at the end of the day, it is about our student athlete. The reason I want to cover this is to, like I said, maybe start the discussion on how we can change things to make things better. As a lot of you view this, I know that you will have your own in-thoughts and sites that you can put into the comments section of this video, so it'll be greatly appreciated. So I think the first thing that hurts the sport at the high school level is the idea that it has to be fit into a season. Like football season or track season, high school powerlifting is usually fit into what is considered basketball season. So it runs from the end of football to the beginning of track. And that's not a lot of time, and we know as being people associated with a strength sport that it takes time to grow strength, and it takes time for recovery. And what we happen to see at the high school level is kind of a skipping of those two parts. We put students into the sport, they may train for about a month, and then we start shoving them into loads of meets. And this obviously is not conducive to the student athlete. Some schools, my school not included because I knew this is bad for my students, are going into meets week after week. And really what this is not doing is it's giving 0 periods of growth, and it's also not giving them really any chance of recovery when they're going to meets every single weekend. So there's got to be some changes we can do there, whether it is obviously minimizing meets or it's creating a hierarchy of meets where you have to participate at one meet to reach another. That way there is not just tons of meets that anyone can go to, but there's actually a pattern of what you have to go to get farther in the sport at the high school level. This is something that could also be done for teamed powerlifting. So when you're competing as a team, it could be set up kind of like the football system where you have different regions, where you have to qualify in one region to reach, per se, districts, or the regional finals, or even the state championship, where you start to narrow it down. And you're having multiple weeks in between so that the teams can qualify, move on, because we need to stretch out the periods in between meets so that it is more conducive to the athlete themselves. And the last thing I really want to talk about, and this is something that I definitely see as a problem with the sport at the high school level, is the rules. You go to one meet, you're experiencing one set of rules. You go to another meet, you're experiencing a whole nother set of rules. This comes from inconsistency in judging at the meets. Often I go to meets and ask, do you have a set of written down rules? And the answer is, no, we're just going to kind of go over them, you know how it works every now and then. And that's really not something I like. Coming from a USAPL and even growing up NASA background, there's always been set rules for the sport of powerlifting. So in high school powerlifting, we need to create a set of rules in which set up the sport and how it's going to be run at the high school level. This again would be more conducive to the athlete going into each and every meet. And the last thing I want to talk about for the bad side of this is, at least in the context of the state of Ohio, we do have what is considered the state championship meet for high school powerlifting. So what you're looking at now is the state meet. And again, there's several problems at this meet. One is the use of equipment. You're allowed to use squat suits when you're squatting, even though you can't use bench shirts, so it's a half and a half meet. You see quarter squats, you see an inconsistent set of judging, as well as you see some people starting with bench and then having to move on to squat and deadlift, and not your typical powerlifting meet. Another problem you see here is the use of the concept of raising the bar, With this, there is no flight of lifters. Once you get to a lifter's particular weight, the bar continues to increase in weight, never going down. So you could conceivably have to follow yourself within your flight of lifters with your attempts. So you see a lot of problems at this meet. Lastly, the issue you see here is the issue of safety. When competitors lift, they are often spotted by people that are really not good at catching the weight, and often this leads to dropping of the bar even in squats, which could create serious injury. And now to end kind of with the bright side of the sport. I know I went over a lot of negatives of things happening, but at the end of the day there is also some things I think outweigh all of those, and that is the idea of potential for the sport. Hundreds of students, probably even the thousands across the state of Ohio, interested in the sport of powerlifting. Though there is a lot of problems, if those problems are fixed, you have a very large pool of athletes competing in the sport. And that is what we want at the end of the day. We want tons of people coming to the sport of powerlifting. So the potential in numbers is there. And also is the potential of higher level athletes. Competing in the sport, I see tons of volleyball stars or football stars that are taking time in the middle of 2 seasons of sports to compete in powerlifting. And these are just some very high level athletes doing this. So there's potential for growth, as well as some pretty outstanding athletes competing in the sport of powerlifting. Fixes with some clarifications, with more guidelines, more safety restrictions, the sport can move forward successfully. And I think that can be easily done. Again, it's great that the number of competitors is there. That's oftentimes the hardest thing to increase. With the right people behind it and with the right new rule set for the sport, I think high school powerlifting could grow to new heights that we've never seen. So again, the potential is there. I do think some things need to be changed, but this should be a great opportunity to reflect on what I've gone over, as well as start the discussion on how we can start to change high school powerlifting. We know it can be done, it just takes numbers to get behind it, as well as the initiative to start the change. And I think that is something that moving forward should be done and will be done as the sport continues to grow. Thank you for tuning in, listening up. Tune in, subscribe to Downing Powerlifting Systems. Follow me at Twitter at ssteach_down.